And welcome into the Stalking Dead here, Elevation 5280 Sports and Lifestyle. We are here on this Sunday evening recapping the season finale of Season 2 of the Daryl Dixon spinoff series of The Walking Dead. This one, the Book of Carol, and Season 6 was titled, again, going to completely butcher these French names, but Au revoir les enfants. Was that French enough, Mark?
You know what? We're American. We won that war. No, I'm just kidding. We tried.
So, Season 6, the season finale, and there is a lot to unpack in this episode, and so we will get into that. No episode to look forward to tonight, unfortunately, because that was the season finale, but we will discuss what's coming up here on the Stalking Dead. Hopefully, we have they're already in talks of Season 3 of Daryl. You saw a small little clip, if you will, of Dead City in New York City with Negan and Maggie. So we will hopefully be doing that series as well. And as for the ones who live with Rick and Michonne, I haven't seen too much on that one. So hopefully they'll be having a Season 2 with that as well. But we are stuck on Daryl Dixon right now. Mark, how are you this evening?
Good. I'm good. I'm excited to jump into all of what that cliffhanger left us with, that finale left us with. Want to jump into Daryl and his emotions. Can't wait.
Yeah, there's, again, a lot to unpack in this one. Now, if you're a longtime Walking Dead watcher, then you know some of these cliffhangers that they've left us on in the past in the OG series has just been, you are scratching and clawing to get back to when the season gets back, because you just want to know the fate of what's going on. So, and to be honest, you know, this cliffhanger, I think, Mark, was, and agree or disagree if you will, I thought this cliffhanger was a small cliff. It wasn't like we were hanging on for dear life and we're calling somebody to reach over the edge and pull us up. This one was a little mellow, I will say, for the end of this series, or excuse me, the end of this season. And, you know, obviously the plane took off. We'll get into that. You know, Daryl and Carol walk off in the mounds of guano like Ace Ventura. So we will get into that as well. But overall, what was your thoughts and impressions of this episode as a season finale?
You know, building off of what you said, honestly, I mean, we've been left way worse, you know, like, once again, like you said, scratching and clawing. But it was also kind of different because they kind of answered the questions that we wanted answers to, but we're still left with, like, okay, now what? So I mean, the cliffhanger wasn't terrible on the aspect of, hey, I gotta know what happens next, but it's more like, all right, you answered my questions, now I want more. If that makes sense, which is kind of unusual for the Walking Dead, as they've left us where we've left every question to be unanswered, right? Like, we've been there. Hey, wait a minute. So many things are untied. So many things are not answered. What are we doing? And now this one, it's like, okay, so you answer some things. Now what?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, this episode kind of kicks off the ragtag group that we've kind of surrounded ourselves with now. And, you know, Falu, one of my favorite characters, and I thought he was going to get killed off in multiple episodes. And I'm glad they kept him around. I think that was one of our irrational fears a couple of episodes ago, that he was somehow going to get killed off.
Unrationally, even then.
Yeah. And there was really no rhyme or reason to why he would get killed off unless he just took a random bullet or stayed behind. You know, kind of what we saw Anna do in this episode.
Right.
Like you said, her staying behind was a gangster move. And I like the twists and turns in this episode as well, Mark. You didn't think that at first, you didn't think that Anna really knew the plan when what was her name? Sabine was Sabine, which kind of took over for crazy dude. Well, I mean,
I always forget his name.
yeah, yeah, and
L-
and
l-
it's
it's
forgettable.
something,
And guess what? It's forgettable because he's gone now. We don't have to worry about
which is
him spread.
crazy.
We
Because
don't have to worry
did
about.
you and I we last talked about how Madame Janae's right hand woman,
Yeah,
dude, she's still alive and well, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
crazy.
So yes, so we have Sabine now kind of running the show, and you know, for however reason or whatever reason, they always find the main antagonist. They always find a way to screw up their plans. But I really like the turn that this one took. You didn't really, again, going back, you didn't really think that Anna knew anything about it. She was just kind of leading him into a dark corridor. Kind of didn't seem like she was leading them into a trap. Turns out, again, spoilers ahead. She kind of led herself into her own death as she couldn't really escape the gate there, and she was able to pick off a few of the intruders, if you will.
And kind of like just to touch on that, one of my favorite things in episode 5, um, you know, obviously they found the secret tunnel or whatever to go follow. And one of my favorite things is when she was like, "Hey, you believe in miracles?" Poof, they disappeared, and she remained loyal to Daryl, just for no reason, and no money, no exchanging of goods. She remained loyal, and all the way to the end, right? Like, and she was like, "Yeah, all I want is the plane." Like, she played this whole part where, yeah, we can make a deal, and I'll betray, Daryl to the end. She played it true, and like you said, and like we talked about, she went out extremely gangster. Another, excuse my language, bad bitch, you know, energy where it was like, "Hey, I don't care." And then like, what was even cooler was when they started biting on her. She just kind of just fell back. She was not scared of shit. Like, that was cool.
Yeah, totally went out like a G, and I was waiting for Al Michaels to say, "Do you believe in miracles?" But that didn't happen.
Right,
But yeah,
right.
I mean, she was able to pick off a few of them, and Lasang is the crazy dude that we were thinking of. We saw Jacinta or Jacinta or whatever his. I want to say his like love interest, but she was kind of a
Yeah, his
whack job as
lover,
well,
yeah,
and she got bit during this whole process as well. And
shot
honestly,
herself in the chin.
and honestly, she kind of like took that bite like a G because she went on like a full half hour without any symptoms.
Right.
Um,
She was still
until
directing the army. She was like, "Hey, it's time to go, dude. We're rolling."
yeah, like we got to get this plane, and then of course as soon as she saw the plane flying away, she was just like, "Ah, screw it, I guess mission failed, life failed. See ya, peace out." And she had her day in the sun. So I guess you can say there was really two, not main characters, but two kind of big deaths in this season finale. Obviously a couple stragglers here and there, but you have probably the biggest one is Anna, and the kind of the club runner when what was his name, Bernard, I want to say, or no, not Bernard, Quinn. I think Quinn was the
Quinn, yeah.
original, the
Yeah.
original club owner or whatever you want to call it, and Anna kind of took over when he died in the first season, and she was again kind of sketchy at first. And then, like you said, she was kind of true all the way till the end. And then Jacinta, we just talked about, I don't know if I'm saying her name right, but she kind of a little bit of a tier lower than Anna when it comes to deaths, but not as many big deaths. Like I was expecting again Falu to go down, but he maybe he saw his death coming, Mark, and he was I'm staying back with my girl. You guys go ahead.
Dude, hey, yeah, no, like you said, I mean, you started off perfect. Pulu was one of our guys. Dude, he's one of the boys. Obviously, right out of the rip, just one of the boys. This is our guy, and so obviously, being that it's The Walking Dead, we're expecting the worst. And so I'm glad that he stayed back. But I think you're right. I think he was like, hey, I've gone far enough. You guys are bad juju. I found love.
Yeah, yeah. So he stayed behind, and I want to get to this plane taking off because we saw a couple episodes ago they finally made it two episodes. Well, last episode I guess they made it to the plane. Laurent was all happy. He's never seen a plane before, and then I like Ash as a character, but on it to be dead ass with you, Mark, he's kind of a little bitch, but at the same time he's cringy, and I don't know. I'm surprised he's made it. He just seems super soft to have made it this far. But again, he seems smart. He seems like he was like a tech guy in the former world or something like that because he was able to like build a pretty cool compound with a pretty, I mean, I would say sophisticated security system, but Carol was able to, you know, break in and out of that thing twice. And when she let the walkers in and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
the
But
generator did give out.
yeah, so I don't know if you
I will
call
say,
that,
I will
but
say this. Like, honestly, I disagree. I don't think that Ash is. He is bitchy. He does have that against him. But I think he's a man of principle. And I think that's what I love about him. And he's willing to let his heart hurt over that. That obviously gives some bitchy vibes. But but my favorite thing though is he stands 10 toes down, ready to rock and roll on anything that he feels. And I think my favorite part, kind of just diving into when when Daryl and Carol first walk up into the horse track, and I think once again, I mean, as we've talked about in the last episode, um, Daryl's becoming way more emotional as a character than kind of really any of us are used to. So when Daryl came up and he told Carol, "Hey, I think you should tell him the truth. You got to tell him what's going on." And Carol was like, she was hemming and hawing, obviously. We all knew that she was going to make the right decision. But the fact that Daryl was kind of pushing for it kind of really made, I don't know, Daryl's evolving as human is what we're seeing. And my favorite part, when obviously she tells him the truth and Ash reacts exactly how we would expect. Um, but hey, we know that he's going to act right too, right? You're going to, and it's terrible to say, but it's like, yeah, you're going to bitch and moan. However, you're going to do what we need you to do. And because he knows what's right, not just because they're manipulating him, but it's like, hey, this is the right thing to do. Got to get Laurent out. Laurent is the kid that we're trying to save. And I really love that line that Daryl used where, hey, you showed up to save a kid, you could still leave here trying to save a kid. And it's just all those things coming in together where it's like, yeah, I do agree with you, but then again, I don't, because he was finessed from the start. From the start, he was just taken advantage of, and he was like, well, I'm already here, might as well do the right thing.
yeah, I guess I still think he's too soft for this world. Only reason he is able probably to make it is because he can fly up into the sky. Let's face it. Okay, but going off of that, so I thought, and I wrote this in the in the article that's posted for season or for episode 5, I was like, who? Someone's got to get left behind, and they had Ash say the old based off Apollo 13, Paris, we have a problem, which
I love that. I love that.
yeah, I like how they threw that in there. But I thought to be honest with you, I thought Daryl and Carol were just going to finesse him again and somehow leave him behind. That's what I honestly thought. Daryl,
Really?
yeah, I thought they got to stick together. They got to get Laurent out of there. The only reason Laurent is even near an airplane is because of Daryl, and now kind of subsequently Carol helping him get him out of there. And Ash is just a dude who has a plane, really. I mean, yeah, Carol feels bad for manipulating him and finessing him and lying to him, but she really has no ties to him. But because of his bitch mentality, she kind of feels bad for him, and was like, "Oh, he's gonna go cry. He had a concussion. He's not well. He's been concussed. This dude's been through a lot since I met him, and it's pretty much all my fault." So they almost got killed by two weird Greenland chicks. So he almost was the bearer of the brand new world. So there was a lot going against Ash in this whole journey. But I thought honestly, Mark, that they were going to leave him behind. And
Never.
like you said, Daryl's a lot more emotional than we're used to, and especially since Isabel died, I think that was a huge hit for him. And he hasn't really been the same since he left the core group of The Walking Dead, the original series.
Right.
And now that is when we talked a couple weeks ago, we talked about kind of Daryl's love life and his whatever you want to call it. Isabel may have been his one true love, and now he like you said, he's just so emotional. Can he make the right decisions? But it is Daryl freaking Dixon, and he's still going to kick some ass and get everybody together and kill a bunch of people.
Right. And kind of to touch back because it is so true, dude. I mean, like I said, I'm sticking up for Ash, but at the same token of time, me and you had the exact same fear this last episode you and I were on, where hey, just don't get finessed to be a bitch and go out, right? Like we had the same fear. So I'm a big fan of keeping the same energy. Um, that was my dude. I was worried about it the whole time, especially when he was stuck in the van for 2 days, concussed, just waiting to get eaten by the hungry ones, I guess, if you will. But I will say this: as soon as the talks went back and forth, I knew for a fact that Daryl and Carol just by just pneumatically had a plan. Just hey, I mean, even if they didn't know, they knew we're staying back. Laurent's getting out with Ash, and I don't know why I felt that, but I felt that from the start. As soon as they kind of started, because Daryl like heard, hey, you know, Carol wants to go, or I mean, wants to stay, and then Carol heard that Daryl wants to stay, and obviously they wouldn't let each other just stay behind. Obviously, that's what this whole trip has been about thus far, besides Laurent, right? But then, going back, like you and I have talked about, dude, like Ash has been finessed at every turn in every corner. And it was like, oh shit. He's gonna get left out, isn't he? And I swear, when they started turning the horse gate at the horse track, I was like, oh no. Ash is gonna get like thrown out by Laurent and like like everything bad insert here type thing. And no, I thought it was really cool. I actually really enjoyed the fact that Daryl was staying behind, taking the shots, and then of course he missed, and then of course, that kind of romantic but not romantic moment that him and Carol shared when Carol took the final shot to make sure that Ash was able to take off safely. I don't know. I think that almost went better than what we could have guessed.
I suppose so. And it was another kind of twist and turn that we obviously didn't even see Carol get out of the plane.
Right.
And because it was originally Ash, Laurent, and Carol about to take off, Daryl was going to stay behind. And Daryl, of course, took like 8 minutes to reload his gun, so he couldn't get a shot off.
All of a
And
sudden, all of a sudden, he can't
all of
reload.
a sudden, he couldn't reload. Yeah, he had got a jam in there. Got to make it look realistic. You get jammed sometimes, and so yeah. And then you see he looks over, kind of has a smirk on his face, like he knew, kind of like Carol was going to
Like
pull
he
something.
already
Like,
knew.
that Carol was going to pull something like this, and kind of looks over, and of course
That's
she's
the
in like,
only part I didn't like about it. I wanted him to be more surprised.
yeah. I can see that, and he looks over, and she's in prime sniping position, sprawled out on the ground.
All of a sudden, right?
Yeah,
Just
I
ready to
mean,
rock and roll.
she
Just
must play a
Chris
lot of
Kyle,
she
just
must play
fucking
a
ready.
lot of she must play a lot of Call of Duty. So yeah,
All right.
so Ashen, now that's kind of, I think, the first part of this cliffhanger now is that the plane is gone. Are we going to see a side story, obviously, of Ash and or Ash and Laurent gallivanting on Greenland? I mean, if I was Ash, I would literally be the new world playboy and just repopulate the earth. Ash, just do what you do, homie. And
Been offered, dude.
yeah,
He's already had that chance.
I know,
Uh,
like that's what I would have did, to be honest with you. Be like, yo, and this is pre knowing about Carol's daughter. Be like, hey, you know what? Take the plane. I'm gonna chill here with I don't even remember the crazy ass Greenland chicks, but
I don't either. Yeah.
Un, I think was the small one. So weird name, kind of cute. So he would have did all right.
It wouldn't have been the worst thing for him,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been a good, a good restart.
Well, what's
For
crazy to
Ash.
me is like kind of to build on what you're saying. So I feel like we're already gonna have 4 stories, right? So we're gonna have one with Laurent and Ash, obviously. You're gonna have Carol and Daryl trying to make their way to England now to try and get back to Laurent and Ash. And I'm only assuming that Ash is gonna land back at his home. Now you've got, because of what's his name is dead with his lover, you have Madame Janae, her right hand woman. She's still doing her thing, right? She's obviously alive and well. And then the fourth story has got to be with Falou, um, and the rest of the resistance, right? So I mean, there's so many things that's going on, and it's like, hey, wait a minute, we can't tie this to any kind of specific ending.
Yeah, and I think Falou and Homegirl are going to find their way to England, because I really don't think that there's really any reason to stay in France.
Right.
Now that the kind of main character, and who knows, Carol and Daryl might not even get out of France. We don't know. As far as we know, they're making their way through the through the through the explosive guano
Through the
fields
Guan.
into the
Through the
tunnel.
Guan.
Yeah, so you know, there a lot of this episode took place underneath the streets of France in that tunnel. We saw that it was an old checkpoint. We saw that everyone either killed themselves or helped each other kill each other because of the whatever kind of stuff that was pouring out of the guano. It almost seemed like a psychedelic drug that was making these guys just go absolutely, excuse the pun, batshit
Can I
crazy.
say this? Can I
And
say this? I just, it bothers me because, like, obviously, as soon as they walked in the tunnel, they started talking about it, and I was like, oh, obviously, that's an issue. Like, we
put on
gotta
the gas
handle it,
mask.
right? Yeah, I mean, any Walking Dead episode, it's like, yo, this has to be handled.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, They kept going, and I'm like, wait, whoa, 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 whoa. That was
Well,
just discussed.
yeah,
What are we doing? And Daryl's always, well, and Carol too, obviously, but Daryl especially has always been on top of those kinds of things, right? Like, that's the only part that bothered me, where it's like, this isn't something that's going to fool Daryl, in my opinion. Everything that we've learned about him in the OG series, this is not something that's going to fool Daryl. And then all of a sudden, he learns the hard way about fighting this Scottish couple, about the the gas mask. It's like,
yeah.
that bothered me just a little bit, because I was like, I feel like, as badass as Daryl has been, and as badass as Carol has been, and Chardon, the French dude with the one eye, Chardon, am I saying that right?
I don't know. I'm trying to find them. I don't know what category they're under, so I don't know what their names were.
But you know what I mean. The dude, you know what I mean. It's like, okay, I feel like we have a good team at this point. We got a solid team at this point to proceed onward, and all of a sudden we get fooled by fucking bad shit. Excuse
Yeah.
my language, but it's like,
Well,
how does
I'm
that
already
happen?
I'm already upset you missed my pun there, but there was like it seemed like there was like 10 gas masks just chilling there, and then apparently there was only two. And I didn't trust these Scottish people as far as I can throw them. As soon as they came on the scene, I was
Wait,
like, no, they're tricky. They
wait,
hide
wait, wait, wait.
they
Which
hide
one
pots
did
of gold by
which
rainbows.
one did I miss? Which one did I miss?
I don't even remember now. Oh, I said they're walking through this tunnel, and it seemed like they were taking hallucinogenic drugs, which make you, excuse my pun, batshit crazy. But I
Respect.
didn't. Yeah, I didn't trust these Scottish people. I mean, let's face it, they hide pots of gold by rainbows. They're just tricky. Or is that Irish? They're tricky. They're
Well,
tricky people, man. They're sneaky people. They're mostly ginger, so you can't ever trust them. They're
never.
just yeah.
I think I
They
think if South Park ever taught us anything, they don't have souls.
yeah. They don't. And you can take it from someone who's a quarter Scottish and semi ginger when I can grow my hair out. It's true. It's true. So when they showed up on the scene, Mark, I was like, yeah, screw these Scots, because something's gonna go down. Like I for whatever reason, the girl was way too nice in her little Scottish accent. I didn't trust that. The dude was just too lengthy. I'm just like, nope, can't trust him. And I don't know. I just as soon as they came on, Mark, I was like, something's gonna go wrong with these guys. And
You
like
know
you
what?
said,
You know what bothered me most? You know what bothered me most? It wasn't even their looks. It was like, hey, can you quit pointing those things at us? When they said that, I was like, nope, nope. A good person wouldn't say that. I'm gonna point my gun at you until I have a reason not to, dude. Like, we've got a problem.
yeah, yeah, it was just a weird, and they kind of just. I know Falou kind of knew them some from somewhere, but it just seemed like they came out of nowhere, and I don't know. They pulled what was it champagne or something out of their bag right when they
The
first got
wine,
there,
yeah, the wine. It was one less
and
wine.
and yeah, you just don't know. Not for me, dude. And Daryl, fine, like you said, he learned the hard way. He had to take him out, and
And that's just not Daryl. Like, that was what did not settle well with me. Daryl never trusts. He knows from jump, right? I mean, like, even if you're gonna, if we want to just jump off just to this spin-off, he didn't even trust the girl with the blind father, who ended up not being blind anyways, right? I mean, he didn't trust to distrust. And it kind of bothered me that it was like, Falu was like, hey, this is cool. And Daryl was like, yes, it is. And it's like, no, 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 that's never been Daryl.
yeah, and
Because
like
I
you
mean,
said,
look at everything he's done with LeBron. Look, I mean, obviously with Isabel, right? Like, Daryl was always Daryl until this point. That's what didn't settle well with me.
yeah, and like you said, him being too emotional, I think he's compromised now because of the death of Isabel. So you have that going, and like you said, the only reason he trusted him is Falou said, "Yo, these guys are cool. Like we could trust them. They're going to get you to England. They're not going to turn on you. They're not going to take all the gas meds, and you can trust them. You can really trust them."
Right.
But I think it may have gone a different way, Mark, if they weren't all affected by the guano or the whatever
It's very
the
possible. I didn't
because
even
look
think
at
about that.
because look at what happened to Cadron. He thought Daryl killed his brother, and like in that moment, thought he killed his brother. He literally stabbed Daryl because he was freaking out, and then he
Right in
runs
the
off,
shoulder.
and then he
Yeah.
runs off in a heap of bat crap and never to be seen again. So we
Yeah, no,
again,
that's key. Yeah,
yeah,
that's honestly like, great observation because and I love how the writers touched on that before they even entered this tunnel. Is like he was like, "Hey, you never told me how my brother died," and he's like, "Yeah, it's because I didn't kill him." And when obviously when Daryl told Sharon, forgive me. Anyways, when Daryl told the
Cadron,
guy with one eye, "Hey,
yeah,
I
Cadron.
never killed Michelle," right? And the surprise on the man's face, I almost feel like maybe he didn't believe him. You know what I mean? Like you're just saying that kind of thing. And obviously, which we know that Daryl's telling the truth, that made the tunnel scene kind of way more important than it should have been, I guess. And I would love to see where he is next season. Obviously, he's not dead.
No, no, I don't think he is either. And let's touch on Carol's Carol's experience in the tunnel as well. She just kind of goes off.
Right,
She keeps seeing
right.
Sophia as a walker. I think that's important to point out right now. She keeps seeing her as a walker. Um, I think I don't know, Mark, if this is just her freaking out, her not getting over it, and I think it's tied to her lying to Ash to get him here, using Sophia as a really key piece of that lie. So she keeps seeing her, and why it's taking her, I guess, this long to kind of get over the fact that Sophia died way back in season 2 of the OG series.
I think
That,
this is Ash.
yeah. So she goes and follows Sophia into kind of a different part. Looked like she went downstairs at some point into some other
Tunnel.
corridor of a tunnel. So she's down there, and she sees a bunch of walkers as Sophia disappears, kills the walkers. Sophia walks out now as herself, not a walker Sophia anymore, but as herself, and literally talks to her, literally hugs her. I was like, oh my gosh, she's like hugging like a kid walker, because you know how they
That's it.
hallucinate like
Yeah, that
that.
was my fear. Yeah, that was.
Yeah,
I was like, don't let Carol go like that. Like that. That would have
I
pissed
didn't
me
think
off.
I didn't think she was gonna die, but I think like when she like kind of it clicked on that she was hugging something, I thought she was gonna be like struggling to not let the walker bite her. Let's face it, it's Carol. I don't think they would have done her like that.
Oh, you're
But yeah,
right.
that was
That's
my
my
fear.
fear.
Like I wanted to know, like, is she actually hugging something? Because she was literally hugging her daughter, and then finally lets her go, and she walks off into the distance. And now, kind of, Carol can, I don't want to say get over this lie, get over the death of Sophia, but I
I
guess for
think
lack of a better term, Mark, move on and I guess be stronger for it. I don't know I don't really know where they want to go with that kind of part of her story.
Yeah, I think what threw me off the most though was because I agree with you up until the point when she pushed off of this said Walker. Obviously, she was never close. Like I said, that was my original fear. Was like I was like, don't let Carol go out like this. I would have been angry with the show. I would have like wrote a letter like, what are we doing? But obviously she like pushed off. What threw me off though was when she saw herself as a walker. And so now I'm like, okay, so I got two messages out of this. So it's like, okay, obviously it's like, Carol, get your shit together. This is not for you. Let Sophia go. Time to rock and roll. And then the second message for me was like, okay, because you didn't handle the pain of Sophia, now it's time to handle it. And it was like, which I get, and obviously for a character in any story to grow, you've got to kind of just overcome, whatever that hump is, if you will. And so I was like, okay, so maybe this is a growing thing. But then once again, like I said, you saw Carol holding Carol as a walker, and I was like, Sophia has nothing to do with it. Sophia has nothing to do with it. Carol, Carol needs to handle Carol and Daryl. I think that the writers made it clear as day in that scene for me.
I like what you said too. Like she saw herself as a walker, and she needed to get over the Sophia thing. I think that's why she saw herself as a walker, because if she keeps, I guess, following these breadcrumbs, if you will, of Sophia, she's going to end up a walker because she's not thinking clearly. She's she's just going to get herself and probably somebody else hurt and or killed because she keeps seeing Sophia everywhere. And let's face it, before they all got effed up in the tunnel from Guano, she was seeing her before anyway. Like she was
Right.
seeing her kind of before they all took these mushrooms of guano. So there was just something in her that was just spinning around like I got to get over this. And I think you're right. I think seeing herself as a walker, that kind of not necessarily cleared her head, but cleared her head enough to say, like you said, all right, let's go. We got to get, I got to get back to Daryl. We got to get the hell out of here.
Right.
So
Yeah, no,
that's,
and that's my thing is like, but I love that though, right? Because that's been the Carol that we've always loved. Just when everything seems to leave and all the hope is gone, right? And there's nothing left to give. Carol and Daryl have always given something more.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So we'll see how she moves on from the whole Sophia thing. Obviously, it was kind of a metaphor of her kind of letting it go and seeing Sophia as a non-walker, as an actual person, air quotes person, because she wasn't obviously there. And yeah, I would. It would have been cool if they would have threw that wrench in their mark that she's actually like hugging a kid walker that was
Right, right.
not even Sophia or whatever, or it was just crazy to think. So she eventually makes her way back to Daryl. Daryl's like, "Here, put this on," and then she puts on the gas mask and they venture off. So you know, I didn't really, I this is just me being picky and petty. I didn't really like the dialogue of them walking through the tunnel towards the
Same. I wanted more.
let's go home. Like, come on,
I
that's
wanted more. Yeah, I wanted
yeah.
more. I wanted
And
more of a, and maybe this has to do with the cliffhanger, but no, I agree with you completely. Like, hey, let's find dude, right? Sharon. Sharon. Once again, I've been
Codron,
messing it up all episode.
Codron.
Codron.
His first name is Stefan. If you want to do
All
that,
right, let's find Stefan, dude. Right? Like, let's just find Stefan. That was like my
I
in
like.
my opinion, I feel like that should have been number one as soon as they got gas masks on.
Yeah,
Obviously, Daryl, got stabbed in the shoulder. Um,
didn't phase him. Didn't
obviously injured.
yeah, didn't phase him though.
Right. Yeah, because Daryl's a boss.
I mean,
And it's like,
if he was smart, like in Ace Ventura, just put some guano in the cut and you're healed.
hey man, it's gonna heal all of it. He Ace told us what Guan can do for you.
Yeah,
No, in all honesty, I mean, just say, let him run with it. Hey, let's go find Stefan. Let's move on. But the fact that he was just like kind of fucked up himself, excuse my language, kind of messed up. Like, hey, I've got my own things I got to take care of. I'm gonna stand up, put a gas mask on, breathe, give it to Carol, breathe, and then we're gonna move on. That's what I hated. It was like, no, because you still lost the guy, right? And Daryl's never been a person, neither Carol either. As I mean, as self preservation as they've completed and they've done time and time again, they've never left somebody just because they're cold hearted. Ever. Ever. In any episode. And
Yeah,
that's kind of what bothered me with this cliffhanger.
and Cordron, to his credit, has become up there with the likes of Falou as one of my favorite characters in this series. I
Amen.
like his turnaround. I like the fact that him and Daryl became buddies. Like I like that storyline. And not only
Yeah.
that, he's pretty. I mean, he's pretty kick ass. Like he's out there kicking ass, taking names too. Like he can handle himself, one eye or not. I mean, this dude can just bowl down some people. So
Right.
I like where his characterization transformed into, and I like his storyline. I hope he comes back in season 3, like you said. And even Carol was like, "Hey, where's Stefan?" I think she used his first name, or maybe she didn't. I could have swore she said, "Hey, where's Stefan?" And of course, he ran off. Like, didn't care. Like,
Yeah,
see ya,
Daryl being
peace
Daryl.
out. He stabbed me. F him. Like, I mean, they were all under the influence. Let's face it. They were not in.
Of course.
They
Yeah,
were
they're
not
not looking
in.
well.
Yeah, they were not in the right mind when these decisions and and stuff were made. So yeah, and that's why I kind of put this as like a low key. Say that 5 times. Low key cliffhanger mark
Right.
because they just kind of just walk off. I would say into the sunset, but it's a dark freaking tunnel. But that's why I was just like, this cliffhanger is. If I had to grade it, Mark, almost an F. Like this was one of the lowest, like I said, cliffs I think we've ever been stranded on in any of the Walking Dead spin-offs, whatever you want to call it,
Agreed.
in almost the entire universe's history.
Now, now this is the one part I want to talk about because I agree. Being a Walking Dead fan, watching and everything else, they have a chance though to prove us wrong. They have a chance to prove us wrong with this upcoming season
Well,
with the Book of Carol.
can you really turn around a cliffhanger that's already been already been aired? Like it's already happened. But like you said, yeah, maybe the cliffhanger is going to be at the beginning of next season. I don't know.
Yeah, that is the only hope I have left. Because if not, then we're correct. The cliffhanger was an F. Definitely not what we're used to with the same writers, the same producers, obviously the same, pretty much the same team. So I hope, I hope that the cliffhanger just hasn't hit yet.
Yeah,
That's my
yeah,
hope.
that makes sense. And I thought the plane leaving like 10, 15 minutes before was a bigger cliffhanger than this.
Same,
And this was,
same. That
and
was
this
my biggest worry. That was my
yeah.
biggest worry with this.
And I guess if you were to ask whoever, I don't know who you'd ask, which was the bigger cliffhanger. A lot of people are going to say this one because at the end of the episode, not only is it because it's at the end of the episode, like most cliffhangers are, but it's your two main characters, Daryl and Carol. Obviously two of the biggest names in the Walking Dead universe, walking off in a pile of bat
Together,
crap. Yeah,
together,
together. Let's
nonetheless. Where it's like, like they should have been separated or something.
let's go home. Like, come on, guys.
Right.
So yeah, that's where they kind of leave us. And
I just
you know,
hope, dude. I just hope, Michael. I just hope that they can somehow create a new cliffhanger next season, episode 1, kind of making us be like, "Oh, dude, I love it." I mean, they've done it before. I don't exactly hate where we're left off. Don't love it, but I'm like, maybe, once again, I got hope. I got hope. Where it's like, hey, this is where this story is going to continue. And it's like, So it was a cliffhanger we weren't even ready for, you know?
Yeah, and I'm curious what they're gonna call season three. Obviously, season one you have it just called Daryl Dixon. Obviously, flat out, plain and simple. But you have season two called The Book of Carol. What is the third season going to be called?
It's
Because
gotta be
obviously,
the Commonwealth. It's gotta be the Commonwealth. Or the Book of Ash. I mean, because
I don't know.
Ash has the kid now, right? Like, we've all been convinced that Laurent is
He's the savior,
the future, right?
the savior of us all.
Yeah. So I mean, it's got to be the Book of Ash.
We'll see. We'll see. I don't know if they. I don't know if they can really name a book of someone so bitch made, but that's just me.
Yeah,
That's just me.
he's gotta grow a sack, put some balls in
But
there,
look,
and
I'll give
get
him
some
credit.
shit
I
done.
mean, he got that plane out of there like a G, saving a kid. We'll give him his flowers. And
But it's still not enough, dude. It's still not
I know.
enough.
I feel like even Laurent can like finesse him to like take over flying the
Even
plane.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah. So
Dude,
I don't know. I like you said,
he's
like you
gotta grow
said,
up big.
I hope that you like you said, you hope the cliffhanger kind of continues next season, and maybe they'll strengthen up Ash for next season and something. I mean, something's got to give here.
Right, right.
So that's kind of where we stand now. And were you kind of not hoping for it? It's kind of a bad way to put it, but were you expecting more bigger deaths? I feel like in this last episode,
Yes.
I know
Yes.
we were, they kind of got rid of quote unquote the bigger side characters in Lassant is that his name? I already forgot his name. And Lasang and Jacinta who died in this episode, and some of those other kind of side characters. There really weren't big names. I think Anna was kind of a big name because she's been in both seasons. Falou would have been a big name, obviously. We didn't really meet Jacinta until this season, so she was kind of
Honestly,
a. So, were you expecting a more bigger death in this season or in this
I was.
episode?
I was. So I honestly, as minor as it was, but to me it wasn't. So when what was her name? Anna, the club owner?
Yeah, Anna.
Anna. That was kind of big to me, and I was like, oh dude, because I mean she did everything Daryl needed. I expected one of the two to die. I didn't expect both to die. So I was like, okay, but I mean, obviously, it wasn't a terrible thing, right? Because once again, you and I, we spoke last episode. Madame Genet's right hand woman. That was our, got to keep an eye on that one, right? Obviously, everybody else died. We know
Sabine.
that
Sabine's
she's
still
now
lurking
got the
around.
keys.
Yep,
Yeah,
Sabine's lurking
she's
around.
got the keys. So I think the only thing that would have been big for me, yeah, you're right. No, nobody died that was really big for me. The flu would have been huge. Um, obviously Ash would have been huge. Maybe if you want to throw in, some side characters, Stefan would have been a huge
Yeah, and he's
death,
he's
but
still a question
mm,
mark.
right, yeah. Well, we know,
Unknown, unknown.
as
Like
we've
you said, yeah,
learned
like you said, we didn't see a body.
exactly, exactly. So I mean, I I think I was expecting more death, but I think that's part of the cliffhanger.
Could be, yeah. And again, are they going to have to refill in Greenland again? That's one of the big question
It's
marks.
gonna be another big one.
Um, we didn't really see bodies there, to be honest with you.
That's true too.
So, and they kind of have them listed. One of them is listed as dead. So the one that wanted to repopulate with Ash, she died. Un. But the other one they have listed as undead. So, and her name was Hannah, and she's probably a person you don't want to restart the world with. Let's
Right.
be honest with you. Uh, but that's where we are. And if you're wondering who I'm referring to, they have these people categorized. If you go to
Please look it up.
Walking Dead has their own Wikipedia series. So if you go to Wiki Daryl series, they have everyone classified in color codes. And green is obviously alive, red is dead, blue is unknown, and gray is undead. So I don't know what the difference between unknown and undead is, but that's kind of where they stand right now with Hannah. And again, probably not the one you want to repopulate the earth with. But I don't know what Ash is. I don't know what Ash likes.
We're not that guy.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, as far as deaths go, Mark, I was expecting again. I think the last 3 episodes we were expecting the flu to take a bullet, but I'm glad. I'm glad he didn't. Obviously, we kind of touched on it. You're gonna have to kind of think of a new big villain in air quotes because of Lusang is gone, because of Janae is gone, and now that Jacinta is gone. But like you said, Sabine's kind of lurking in the distance. Will she become kind of the new? Is it antagonist or protagonist? Is usually the villain.
Antagonist. The
Antagonist.
protagonist is the hero.
Yeah. So she could become the new villain, so to speak. What becomes of the Demimonde, the club in which Anna was running, is at the last we kind of see of those people. So there's a lot of questions. Are we even coming back to France? Like I kind of touched on, Mark, at the beginning of the episode.
Right.
I'm just going to throw this question out to you. Do Carol and Daryl even make it to England without some of these big name characters that we've gotten to know?
And here's the thing. I'm gonna add another question with a question. Do they even make it to England, or do Ash and Laurent even make it to Commonwealth? Right. So I mean, there's so many things left unsaid and unpromised, if you will, because I mean, hey, they got what did they say? They had 50 something gallons to make it back. That was enough. That's only the Maine. That's not to
How
Ohio.
do they? But how do they make it? How did they make it from Maine? They didn't make it from Maine to France to begin with. They made it to.
Right.
They had to stop in Greenland. Is that
Yeah,
because they had a
and
fuel leak though? They had a fuel leak.
before they left France, they were like, "Hey, this is enough to make it back." That wasn't enough to make it back to Commonwealth because um, Ash had never been to Commonwealth,
Yeah.
so
Now he's got to go to
there
crappy
wasn't a
Ohio.
thing. Yeah, so there wasn't a thing. So I've got even more questions, and it's like I think we're gonna end up with another 4 more stories. Because how else? How else? Even let's just pretend that they get to Commonwealth with Julie and everybody else. They're not. It's not going to be, all's well. We're going to be fine. Yeah, obviously, there's going to be way more to cover.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, I don't even know if they make it to England. I think you're going to see somehow Stefan Falou just follow him to England. I don't even think, and this is again, if they make it to England, I don't even think we go back to France. And maybe somehow Sabine, just picks up their trail and follows them. I mean, they haven't even gotten out of the tunnel yet, Mark. So Sabine might be waiting on the other side to follow them. We don't know that.
True. It's very true.
So they've been outside this whole time, not ingesting the deadly guano, and they've had all this time to stir up a plan and say, "Hey, let's get this whole place surrounded." I don't know how many people they have left to fight for them, but they do have the super walkers. I guess
Yeah.
they can throw some.
The science experiments.
Yeah. Speaking of, we didn't get to talk last week on episode 5, but when they were all trapped in the car, Daryl, Carol, and Ash were all trapped in that car. Daryl shoots some of those darts at 2 walkers, and all of a sudden, all of the other walkers
Everybody
just
else dies.
vanishes. Like what? What was that? Like did
The
they
only
pick up a
thing I
gun
can
and just
think
shoot
of,
them?
dude, the only thing I can think of is that you're exactly right.
Like what was
Your
that?
your your analogy of the World War Z zombies, that's something I can think of. I mean, what else makes sense?
Like what happened? Did they? I mean, it seems
Dude,
like
they had to have ripped them. They had to have ripped them or ate them or fucking. I mean, excuse me, freaking. Done what they did. I mean, there's no other explanation than the
I don't
World
get
War
it.
Z zombies won.
Yeah, I don't. And now we're finding out they can kill their own kind. We've never seen that before. Never,
No,
never.
that's why I think
I
the
like
World
the
War Z
cool.
zombies was the perfect analogy.
Yeah, and I like the kind of cool twist to it. Like, hey, they can. If you're stuck in a now we know that if you're stuck in a situation, just make one a super zombie, super walker, and they'll take out a herd for you if you I guess kind of position it the right way. So that's
Right?
kind of cool to find out.
Exactly.
So I don't know what they did. It seemed like they had a what is those like in the almost like an Iron Man suit, Mark, where he locked on to like 50 targets and all these rockets just went all. That's what it seemed like it happened.
It was just right.
Yeah,
It was perfect for the script, right? I mean,
and of course we didn't see
I
what happened, but
yeah, I don't know what else. Because, like I said, that was, I mean, honestly, the perfect analogy. The World War Z zombies. I don't. What else describes the fact that they just all blew up against the window? Blood everywhere, and all of a sudden they were able to walk out.
yeah, it was crazy. And obviously the two super walkers that were created try to bust through the car, and again, just a simple knife to the head takes them out. I thought they would be like, you got to get the brain and the heart for these ones. You got to do two extra steps for the
Right,
super
but
walker,
not
but
them.
not them. No, not these ones. So it'll be interesting to see if they continue to use super walkers. I like I said, I like the fact that it's kind of adds a new dynamic. If I don't know how many, I don't know if they're walking around with boatloads of the chemicals to make these super walkers, Mark. But I hope Daryl kept a couple of those tranquilizers or whatever he
Same,
had with him.
same.
Yeah, just to get. I mean, hey, sticky situation. Like
Gotta
I
keep an
bet
ace up
you,
your sleeve.
yeah. I bet you if somewhere down the line, and I could be dreaming this up, Mark, when Daryl meets back up with Rick and they get stuck in a situation and there's a big herd coming and Daryl's just like, yo, watch this. And he makes a super walker. And all of a sudden, you just see this green glowing light like just zip through the herd of walkers and they're all dead.
Right, right.
Yeah. And then, Rick's response, it ain't like it was before. So, Coral.
Exactly what we want.
Yeah, so we will see. And as we touched on, we're not sure about the ones who lived with Rick and Michonne. So we hope that comes back for a second season. Obviously, Dead City season 2, following the storyline of Negan and Maggie, is coming out soon. So hopefully, we'll bring you the Stalking Dead for that as well. Another question before we get out of here, Mark. Do you think this spinoff series, Daryl Dixon, introduces another former OG character? Do you think that's coming in our future?
Yes, I do.
All right,
Why
who?
else? Why else split up the characters to bring it back to the United States potentially, but also keep it in Europe? Now, in my opinion, insert your character here. I feel like anybody,
Can I tell
any
you who I think
past
it's who
character.
I want it to be slash who I think it could be, if they were to do it? Of course, this is all hypothetical, but
Honestly, I'm not confident enough to pick one because I feel like uh, this is a perfect chance to just introduce whichever character you want.
you know, who I could see kind of joining this spin-off for a season or whatever, just like he kind of did in the OG series. I just gave you a hint. It's a he is Morgan. Because
Right? Oh yeah, agreed,
let's
agreed.
face it, he never really stayed in one place.
Ag- yeah,
After he went batshit crazy on Rick in that one episode, where he's I now saw red Rick. I mean, he just lost his mind there. He couldn't get over the death of his son, the death of his wife. He saw his wife as a walker tear into his son because he couldn't save him. And we saw him in Fear the Walking Dead. So we kind of saw him bounce back and forth between shows, I guess, so to speak. It is shows, but different, obviously, states in the U.S., storylines and stuff like that. And I think it would be really cool if all of a sudden on their journey they freaking just run into Morgan somewhere.
Right. No, I honestly, I think this leaves the perfect opportunity to not even limit it to one, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I could see that. Because we're all I know I'm guilty of it, Mark. I'm a sucker for these reunions, and we saw it
Yeah,
in the
we all
original
are.
yeah, in the
Absolutely.
original series after they all split up and then literally like a season and a half goes by and they finally reunite, and it's so cool to see. But I will say in these spin-off series, like I think we touched on it, the reunion between Carol and Daryl was kind of it
Not enough.
was.
Was not enough.
Yeah, like you said, it wasn't enough. If you watch the ones who lived with Michonne and Rick, even that reunion, I mean, Michonne spent how freaking long looking. I mean, this is why Daryl ended up in France because he was looking for Rick. But all that time Michonne spent, the etching on the phone, her finding his cowboy boots, like all of this stuff, and then their reunion in the ones who lived was just kind of eh. And if you
Right.
follow that show, if you follow that show, I won't give it away, but you're kind of pissed off at Rick towards the end of that
Course.
show. Yeah.
Of
So
course.
we won't give that away. We'll touch on it if that show comes back, and we'll get a show going for that one as well. But yeah, I definitely could see Morgan popping up somewhere in this one.
Oh yeah, no. Love it. Like I said, I'm not limited even to one character.
Yeah, and I could definitely see that as well. And I'm confident in putting Morgan's name out there. I'd have to really, I guess,
I want to do my homework because
I was just
I
about
was
to
like,
say I'd have to do some research before I throw out another name, but I can
same.
confidently throw out Morgan's name because
Yeah, I like Morgan. That's a
yeah,
safe choice.
and because this is kind of an adventure series. Like they're going from Maine to France
Continent to
to
continent, dude. I mean,
yeah,
continent to continent. Why
yeah.
not Morgan?
These homies are rolling coast to coast, so
Right,
you gotta
right.
you gotta step up your game, so to speak. But that is going to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is going to do it for us here on The Stalking Dead. Thank you. I know we didn't get as many episodes as we wanted to in, but we want to thank you for following our journey as touching on one of our favorite shows and series and TV show universes, if you will. Once again, hopefully we'll be back discussing and covering Dead City with Negan and Maggie. And in
January.
yeah, in celebration of that, here you go.
Yeah, I love it.
Got the Negan shirt on. So hopefully we'll be seeing them very, very soon, like you said, in a couple of months. But that's gonna do it for us. Make sure you go to all of our socials and follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, stuff like that. And you'll see all of our content. And then go to our home base as well, e5280sports.com. And this pod, as well as other pods on the network, brought to you by Pikes Peak Sports Cards. They just threw a big show down in the Springs. So if you're in the Denver Springs area, go check them out as well. And Mark, before we officially get out of here, I do want to throw this out to listeners and watchers. Kind of want to do a cool segment for our next, like, I don't kind of a structured segment, like I don't know, guessing who's going to die next or something of that nature. Like who, I don't know. I just if you can comment on the videos and stuff like that, and we'll send out a gift for you. So
Love it.
trying to think of some kind of segment to do for our next Walking Dead meeting. But for Mark Saxton, I am Michael Spillin. We will hopefully talk to you in January.
Absolutely.